Hi guys, if you haven't watched part 1 of this video, please watch that first so you can understand the story. The link is given in the description. Now let's move on with the video.
Leon clenched his teeth as his legs suddenly locked in place, frozen as if shackled by an invisible curse. Panic struck him, and he shouted, "What did you do, Weiss?" A cold smirk played on her lips as the dragon mark on her neck began to glow faintly. "I embedded an enhanced dragon pattern into your armor," she said, her tone calm but laced with triumph. "The moment you touched it, the enchantment activated." Leon felt the surge of energy racing through his body, his own dragon pattern flaring in response. His limbs trembled, unable to bear the strain. "Damn it," he thought, "this wretched dragon. I let my guard down." His knees gave way and he dropped to the ground. Weiss chuckled, amused by his struggle. This version of the dragon pattern amplifies the effects twice the intensity. "Tell me, my dragon slayer, can you endure it?" She stepped forward and gently cupped his face in her hand, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. Leon grit his teeth as the pressure built inside him, paralyzing his movement but stirring something uncontrollable within. Without warning, Weiss pushed him down flat onto the ground. Leon groaned internally, "I can't move. But this heat, what is this madness she's triggered?" Leaning in until her face hovered just inches above his, Weiss whispered, "Did you think I forgot how you once conquered me? I've spent these past days planning, thinking of how to make you let your guard down." Her eyes glittered with mischief. "And you, Leon, you fell for it," he growled. "You female dragon." She raised an eyebrow, her smirk deepening. "Not bad acting, right? Convincing enough to fool even you." Leon's mind raced. "So all the things you said today, were they all lies? About your childhood, your parents, letting Mune call you mom. Holding hands, was all of it fake?" Weiss leaned even closer, their bodies nearly touching. Her voice softened. "No, that was all real." She brushed her fingers against his cheek. "But that doesn't change what I'm going to do now." Her lips nearly grazed his ear as she whispered, "You once asked me if I like to conquer. Well, Leon, I do." Her voice was soft, dangerous, and full of power. "Now tell me, my dear husband, are you ready?" Leon had no chance to resist. He could only submit to the whims of the queen who had captured both his body and pride. Sometime later, clothes lay scattered and Leon lay there, spent and bare, with Weiss resting above him, her gaze steady on his face. "What are you doing?" he asked, brows furrowed, still trying to catch his breath. She gently cradled his face in her hands, her voice softer now, thoughtful. "Your scars faded a little since 2 years ago, but you've changed," she said. "You look more worn out, more mature. The kind of man who's carried too much." Leon turned his face away, frowning. "You're trying to trick me again. I won't fall for it." Weiss sat up, slipping back into her clothes with practiced ease. She glanced over her shoulder and winked. "You're getting smarter," she said playfully. "But your body, it's not what it used to be. Not quite as strong anymore." Her words landed harder than he expected. Leon stared at the ceiling in silence, her voice echoing in his head. "Not as good as before, not as strong as before." For a dragon slayer, those words hurt more than any wound. The next morning, Leon looked completely drained of energy when someone knocked on his door. As he stepped out, he found Weiss and Noah waiting for him. Weiss greeted him with a playful smirk, saying it looked like he hadn't slept well. Leon clenched his teeth, blaming her for his exhaustion, to which she chuckled and pretended to forget what she had said the night before. The two exchanged sharp words, bickering like usual, while Noah silently thought to herself that the chaos had begun once again. Eventually, Weiss shifted the topic, saying the entrance exam to St. Heath Academy was very strict and that Leon should start tutoring Noah on dragon knowledge right away. Leaning closer to his ear, she teased that for now, this was the only way he could prove his worth. Frustrated, Leon snapped that he only failed yesterday because he wasn't in his best condition, and while he would make sure Noah passed the exam, he also wanted to use this opportunity to strike a deal and exchange something of equal value. Weiss smiled, agreeing to his request as long as it wasn't too excessive. Leon grinned, promising to hold her to her word. She laughed and told him not to overwork himself before turning around to leave. Leon shouted after her, calling her a female dragon, while Noah asked curiously why he always quarreled with her mom. Leon brushed it off as normal daily conversation but then paused, his eyes narrowing in confusion as he turned to Noah and asked what she had just called her. When Noah replied, "Mom," Leon dropped to his knees and asked if Weiss had made her change the way she addressed her and which name she preferred. When Noah answered that she liked the current one better, Leon was overcome with joy and exclaimed that he knew they truly loved it. Still confused, Noah blinked and changed the subject, asking if they could start studying. With that, she ran off, and Leon chased after her, shouting, "Hey, wait! Noah, wait for me!" At Silver Dragon Castle, inside the children's study room, Leon sat in front of an open book, deep in thought, when Weiss approached from the front and asked if he hadn't gone to sleep yet. Leon yawned and replied that Noah had a strong ability to learn and comprehend, so simple teaching methods weren't enough for her. He planned to organize key knowledge points and combine them with test questions to make her lessons more effective, which was why he had to stay up late preparing. Confidently, he said he believed he could help her pass the entrance test within a month. Weiss smiled and said that was only natural since Noah was raised by her. Leon smirked and replied that it wasn't necessarily the reason, then stood up with a big grin and boasted that he had been a dragon-slaying genius who graduated top of his class in both written and practical exams every year, receiving the highest level scholarships. Then he playfully asked her what kind of champion she was. Flustered, Weiss thought she had always seen him as a reckless man who only knew how to fight, but hadn't expected he was also an academic top student. She raised her voice and teased that if he was so powerful, how did he end up as her prisoner? Leon shouted that he had just lost once, that a single misstep could lead to eternal regret, and that even a tiger in troubled times could be bullied by a dragon. Laughing, Weiss joked that he was just afraid of being ridden by a dragon. Her gaze then fell on a plate full of chili peppers and she asked what he planned to do with them. Sitting down in front of him, Leon picked up a yellow chili and casually said he took it from the kitchen to refresh himself. As he took a bite, Weiss' expression turned to shock and she quickly warned him that it was a dragon yellow pepper and, as a human, he probably couldn't handle it. But by then, Leon's face had turned bright red, flames burst from his mouth, and he jumped around desperately shouting for water only to realize there was none nearby. In his panic, Weiss grabbed him and gently placed her hands over his ears. Leon blushed as a soothing coolness spread through his body. She calmly told him her hands were cooler and would help ease the burning. He felt her fingertips were icy cold but comfortingly gentle, not as sharp as ice, and strangely pleasant. After a minute, she released her hands and Leon sighed in relief, thanking her as she blushed and replied softly. Embarrassed, she got up and walked out, reminding him not to eat too many chilies or he'd end up teaching Noah using sign language. Leon muttered that he understood, and as she walked away, he thought to himself that he had actually wanted her to keep touching his face a little longer. But he quickly snapped out of the thought, scolding himself to wake up, reminding himself that she was the cunning dragon who had cornered him, crushed him senselessly, and even mocked his lack of stamina afterward. Just thinking about it made him feel a little perverted, and he realized he needed to find a way to recover his strength quickly. Flipping through the pages of his book, he read that red dragon fruit helped regulate chi and blood pretty good, but not enough. Lotus grass aided digestion and treated external injuries, not quite right either. Then his eyes landed on something promising, Dragon Big Force Function, a highly effective health tonic with the power to harmonize yin and yang, nourish the body, and restore vitality. His eyes lit up. This was it. The next day, Leon turned to Noah and said that her test had been corrected, telling her the full score was 100 and asking her to guess what she got. She guessed 50, and Leon placed the paper in front of her, revealing she actually scored 62. Her small fists clenched as she stayed silent, clearly frustrated. Leon observed her reaction and thought that she wasn't satisfied with her grade. This kid held high standards for herself. While other children played without a care, she had chosen to study on her own. Gently patting her head, Leon told her that getting 62 points on her first try was already impressive. Noah gave a small smile and thanked him. Leon then said they would go over the mistakes next, but as he spoke, he coughed and apologized. He wondered if eating too many peppers last night had irritated his throat. Trying to cheer himself up, he'd eaten more than usual of the spicy dragon yellow pepper. Meanwhile, Noah remembered something her mother had said about how her dad had been up late making a study plan for her. Although he seemed unreliable, he was actually a top student. But since he had eaten that deadly spicy pepper to stay awake, of course his throat would suffer. Reaching into her pocket, Noah pulled out a small box of medicine and offered it to him. Leon blinked in surprise and asked if it was for him. She clarified that it was from her mom, not her. Leon smiled, took a pill, and told her to thank her mom on his behalf. In his thoughts, he reflected that Noah wasn't like Weiss. She seemed cold on the outside but was just bad at expressing her emotions. With renewed energy, Leon clenched his fist and raised his hand with a confident grin, telling Noah it was time to continue studying. She responded with a firm yes. And just like that, the bond between father and daughter grew a little stronger. In the Silver Dragon Castle's kitchen, the maids carried in bundles of herbs, carefully holding them as they addressed Leon, saying that all the herbs he had asked for were now gathered. Standing before a long table with a thick alchemy book open in front of him and gloves on his hands, Leon nodded and instructed them to place everything on the table. As the maids laid out the ingredients and left the room, Leon's thoughts stirred. He had specifically requested some additional herbs not listed in the book to avoid suspicion and keep the true purpose of his work a secret. The preparation of the Dragon Great Force, though seemingly simple in theory with its ordinary medicinal materials and basic refining steps, had a daunting reputation for its difficulty. Even the most talented pharmacists among the Dragon clan had an extremely low success rate when attempting to concoct it. Leon picked up a bowl and began crushing the herbs, murmuring the process as he went. First, grind and mix the herbs thoroughly, then boil them in a pot in precise sequence. One by one, he added the crushed herbs into the pot, carefully monitoring the mixture as it simmered. Hours passed in silence until he finally sat back with a sigh of disappointment, staring at the 4 bottles of differently colored potions sitting before him. "I failed again," he muttered in frustration. "It's not that easy." His eyes landed on one of the potions and he frowned, reflecting on the multiple times he had followed the instructions in the book precisely, only to fail each time at the final stage, the purification and separation of the drug. The high-temperature separation method described seemed flawed. Temperatures too high rendered the drug inactive, while those too low failed to extract pure medicine. Manual shaking was futile, and without proper alchemical instruments, true separation felt impossible. Recalling his old master's advice that when one method fails, seek another, he wondered if there was any alternative way to remove the impurities effectively. As he sat in thought, a strong wind picked up outside, the windows began to rattle, and lightning streaked across the sky. The heavy storm was rolling in and thunder echoed above. Leon glanced toward the window, mesmerized by the violent flashes in the sky, when suddenly a memory clicked into place. "Thunder," he whispered. "I remember, in alchemy class, the teacher once said that electrolysis, using electricity to separate impurities, can sometimes yield a higher success rate than fire roasting." He quickly noted that this alternative method wasn't mentioned in the book, but it made sense, especially considering his proficiency with lightning magic. Though his magical strength hadn't fully recovered, the fine control needed for this process was within his capability. Determined, he returned to the pot, positioned his hand over the mixture, and began channeling his lightning element into the potion, carefully modulating the heat and energy. Sparks danced over the surface as he manipulated the current with focused precision, maintaining the exact temperature needed without scorching the components. After half an hour of intense concentration, Leon finally reached the critical point. A soft, glowing light emanated from the mixture as it began to take shape. Holding his breath, he performed the final movement and the residue separated cleanly. At last, sitting in the palm of his hand was the completed pill, Dragon Great Force, successfully refined. His eyes widened in triumph as he looked down at the fruit of his labor, knowing he had just accomplished something even dragon pharmacists struggled to achieve. Leon placed the pill into a small box, muttering to himself that the Dragon Cleanse medicine was fairly simple to prepare. Just then, Myun came dashing into the room, her eyes sparkling with curiosity as she asked what he was making. He turned to her with a smile, replying playfully that it was something good, but as he got a closer look, he realized it was Myun. A bit startled, he quickly tried to brush it off, saying it was nothing. Myun's gaze fell on the pill in his hand and she asked innocently if it was candy. Leon responded that it was actually medicine he made for her mom. Her wide eyes blinked as she asked if her mom was sick. Leon, realizing he couldn't say it was meant for himself, tucked the box into his pocket and gently said it wasn't because she was sick, but because her mom had been really busy lately, so he wanted to give her something to nourish her body. Myun nodded seriously and told him that he had to take good care of mom. Leon smiled warmly and said, "Of course, that's exactly what a dad should do." In his heart, he quietly thought to himself that once he fully recovered, he really would take care of Weiss properly. Outside, the rain began to pour harder, thunder rolling through the sky. Later, in his room, Leon lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling while contemplating the pills he had just made. He wondered if Dragon Clan supplements would have any negative effects on a human body. Deciding to put the thought aside for now, he was interrupted by a knock at the door. The doorknob turned and in walked Weiss. Sitting up, Leon greeted her with slight surprise, asking why she had come. She explained that Myun had told her about the chocolate-looking medicine he made for her to help with her health. Embarrassed, Leon blushed as he realized his little cotton-padded jacket had shared everything already. Weiss approached his bed, her expression soft as she told him not to be nervous and that she wasn't here to scold him. She was simply impressed that he could refine medicine in such a basic environment. With genuine interest, she asked what he had made and if she could see it. As she leaned closer and held out her hand, Leon, knowing resistance was pointless, handed her the box, saying that even if he said no, she'd probably just use force anyway. With a knowing smirk, Weiss opened the box and inspected the pill inside. Her eyes lit up and she said it was impressive, praising him for managing to refine such a high-quality dragon great force under limited conditions. She added with a proud tone, quoting the phrase, "The men on litters are the men of arms." Leon sat there in stunned silence, thinking in disbelief that she didn't laugh at him this time. Weiss shut the box with a firm snap and said calmly that he could keep the medicine, but under no circumstances was he to take it now. Without waiting for a reply, she tossed the box back toward him. Leon caught it and frowned, asking why not. She crossed her arms and explained that as a tonic specifically designed for the dragon race, its potency was far beyond what a human body could handle. Leon raised a brow, surprised, asking if the medicine was truly that powerful. She sighed and warned again that she was only being kind by reminding him a human simply couldn't endure the effects of such a pill. But Leon wasn't having it. He opened the box again, picked up the pill between his fingers, and scoffed, saying that just because he didn't have dragon power didn't mean he couldn't handle a small pill. With defiance in his eyes, he reminded her that he had defeated countless dragon kings in battle and there was no reason to doubt his strength now. He added boldly that she shouldn't underestimate him, then tossed the pill into his mouth with a confident grin, declaring that courage was mankind's greatest weapon. Weiss' eyes widened in alarm as she shouted his name, but it was too late. Leon suddenly stiffened, a tingling sensation spreading through his limbs, then an unbearable itch consumed his entire body as he crumpled onto the bed. His throat began to constrict, making it hard to breathe. Weiss rushed to his side in frustration and panic, yelling at him for his recklessness, admitting that she barely ever had to use healing medicine and now he was forcing her hand. Leon's body began to surge with unstable energy, glowing and crackling as blue electric currents danced over his skin. She placed her hand firmly on his abdomen, trying to stabilize the violent energy swirling inside him, asking how he was feeling and insisting she needed to break down the pill's effect before it hurt him. But Leon, breathing heavily, pushed her hand away, teeth clenched in pain and determination. She yelled for him to stop moving, but he wouldn't listen. His body lit up brighter with crackling arcs of electricity as he stared straight at her and shouted through the strain that she better watch carefully because this raw, painful resilience was the courage and unbreakable will of mankind. Something even the mighty Silver Dragon Queen needed to acknowledge. Leon's entire body was surging with wild, electric-like energy, the air around him crackling as if lightning itself danced beneath his skin. Weiss instinctively stepped back, shielding her face with her hand, her expression tense with confusion and worry. She thought, he's using lightning magic directly on his body, what is he thinking? And then, in the next moment, his strength gave out as he collapsed onto the bed, his limbs twitching slightly before going still. Alarmed, she rushed over and caught him, gently placing his head on a pillow and muttering under her breath, he really is a mad Ann. Turning on her heel, she said aloud, wait here. I'll go get the court physician. But before she could reach the door, Leon's hand slowly rose and, with unexpected precision, reached out and grabbed her tail. She flinched in shock, turning back, gasping, how did you? He pulled her tail gently, wrapping it around his shoulders like a comforting scarf, and started to laugh with a silly grin, mumbling, wife, where are you going? Her cheeks flared with color as she instinctively pulled back, stammering, who is your wife? But he refused to let go, hugging her tail tighter, giggling like a child. I don't want to. I won't let my wife go. Wife, annoyed and completely flustered, she bit her lip, trying to assess the situation. Dragon Great Force should only strengthen the body, not cause this kind of delirium. It must be the lightning element that distorted the medicine's effects, she muttered, analyzing the situation aloud. Still, she reassured herself, he looks like a complete idiot, but at least he's not in mortal danger for now. Leon clung to her tail like it was his favorite pillow. Okay, I'm here. What's wrong with me? She mumbled, clearly losing control of the situation. Leon's smirk widened as he whispered, Wife, I want a second child. Her face turned scarlet as she shouted. You haven't even taken care of the 2 children from the first pregnancy properly, and you already want another? Forget it. But Leon only clung to her tighter, repeating with a childish persistence. I want a second child. I want a second child. Is that okay? Weiss groaned and muttered under her breath. To avoid more chaos. Maybe I should just play along for now. She sighed and said, Fine. Not just a second, we'll have a third and fourth too. His face lit up with joy. Then you'll have to go to my hometown with me, he said. She nodded tiredly. We'll go after things have settled down. His smile grew brighter. Great. She watched him, thinking, this guy is even more annoying than usual. Leon leaned in, his eyes half-lidded as he murmured, Wife, you're so nice, and went in for a kiss, but she quickly slapped both hands on his face to stop him. No. Stop trying to take advantage of the situation, she shouted, her patience wearing thin. When will the effects wear off? She groaned internally, before finally snapping and punching him square on the forehead. Leon yelped and collapsed backward again, dazed and stunned. Realizing what she'd done, she gasped and rushed to his side. Are you okay? He grimaced and clutched his side, clenching his teeth. Wife, I feel a little uncomfortable, he whispered pitifully, leaving her torn between panic and wanting to throw something at him again. As Leon lay on the bed, still groaning from the overwhelming energy surging through his body, Weiss suddenly felt a heat rise on her own neck. She reached up and touched it, her eyes narrowing as the dragon pattern hidden beneath her skin began to glow faintly. Clenching her teeth, she muttered to herself, Not now. She turned back to Leon and quickly tore open his shirt, revealing the same glowing dragon pattern etched across his chest. Her breath hitched. Why would the dragon pattern activate now? What's causing this resonance between us? Before she could think further, Leon suddenly moved. In one swift motion, he grabbed her and gently pulled her onto the bed. Now above her, his hands held hers down, his eyes hazy and flushed with heat. Leon, you bastard! What are you doing? She snapped, half in alarm, half in disbelief. His voice was low and breathy. I feel strange, wife, like fire is crawling over my chest. Everything's burning. Weiss bit her lip, realizing what was happening. The dragon pattern, fused with lightning energy. It's enhancing his instincts, his desire. Leon leaned closer, nuzzling against her neck and her tail, murmuring, Even when your tail's been dragging on the ground all day, it still smells good. I like it the most. She flushed, pushing him gently. Are you insane? Don't get carried away just because of some reaction. He hushed her, placing a finger on her lips and whispering, Weiss, you're more beautiful than ever tonight. Her face turned crimson. What's gotten into him? He's usually so stubborn and reckless. But now, it's like he's someone else. Wild, intense. But there's something honest about it too. His voice dropped, teasing, You'll help me out, won't you? She rolled her eyes, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips despite herself. Fine, she said softly. But only tonight. As morning light spilled into the room, Leon slowly opened his eyes, blinking as he adjusted to the brightness, only to find Weiss lying beside him, calmly gazing into his face. She greeted him softly, and startled, he leapt up and sat on the bed, clutching the covers while yelling, asking why she was there. Weiss, wrapped in the bedsheet, placed her feet on the floor, watching as Leon groaned, complaining about his aching body and fragmented memory. He asked in confusion what had happened the night before, and she tilted her head, asking if he'd truly forgotten everything. She revealed her body, subtly showing the scattered hickeys, and Leon's eyes widened in shock as he stared, recalling with horror and disbelief the wild memories of the previous night. As he struggled to suppress the embarrassment, shouting for her to stop, she teased him by mimicking his desperate words from last night, saying he had pleaded with her to help him just one last time. Mortified, he interrupted, begging her not to repeat it again. Pulling on his shirt, he thought to himself how ironic it was that he had originally avoided taking the Dragon Great Force medicine just to stay healthy and to teach Weiss a lesson, never expecting it to be so potent. He looked at her and apologized for going too far, asking if he had hurt her, but she calmly reassured him. With a cocky grin, he asked if she now believed he was in good health and told her not to call him weak again. Weiss leaned in, surprising him as she cupped his face and whispered near his lips that she was very satisfied with his performance and expected him to keep it up in the future. Leon froze, feeling like he had unknowingly entered the service industry while she shifted the topic and reminded him about the bet and whether he had decided on his request. Scratching his head, Leon said he had thought about it and asked if someone could be sent to the Empire to check on his master and his wife. Weiss replied that while silver dragons weren't skilled in stealth, a visit wouldn't be a problem. Leon smiled and, clearing his throat, sincerely thanked her for the help. At Silver Garden Castle, Leon was dozing off in a chair with his arms crossed while little Myun sat at the table in front of him, cheerfully coloring. She glanced up and asked if he was sick, causing Leon to jolt awake and quickly deny it, asking why she thought so. Myun said that her mom had told her daddy took medicine yesterday, but men weren't supposed to admit when they were sick. Leon clenched his jaw, embarrassed and frustrated, thinking how that dragon woman could say such a thing to their child and questioning if he had any dignity left at all. Myun looked at him with concern and asked if he still wasn't feeling well, wondering if the medicine wasn't strong enough or if he hadn't taken enough. Trying to brush it off, Leon told her it was rude to keep asking, but before he realized it, blood had dripped from his mouth. Myun's eyes widened in horror and she rushed to him, hugging his leg tightly and crying, calling him dead in her panic. She sobbed, saying she couldn't live without him and begged him not to die. Leon gently patted her head, assuring her that Daddy was just fine. He looked at her tenderly, thinking how much she reminded him of Weiss, her spirit and sweetness echoing her mother's personality. Wanting to lift her mood, he leaned down and suggested they make a toy together. Myun's eyes lit up at the word toy and she exclaimed how much she loved them. Using the basic principles of mechanical linkage he once learned in alchemy mechanics, Leon crafted and painted a Rubik's Cube, handing it to her proudly. He explained what it was and encouraged her to try it. Myun eagerly ran over and began twisting it with fascination. Watching her, Leon thought to himself how he never expected his old studies would come in handy for childcare, wondering if he was born to be a babysitter. Just then he felt something shift behind him and turned around slowly to check. Myun paused and asked, "Dad, what's wrong?" Leon said it was nothing, but in his mind he felt the lingering gaze of a dragon coming from the direction of the training ground. He wondered if it was where Noah was practicing, though he knew she wouldn't come up to see them. Still, he decided to make one for her too. That night, when Noah returned to her room, she found a Rubik's Cube on her table along with a letter that simply read, "Toy for Noah. Find a way to restore it." The cube was completely scrambled. She picked it up and scoffed, muttering that she had no interest in childish toys, but despite her words, she gave it a try and skillfully solved it. A small smile crept onto her lips as she whispered, "But thank you, Dad." The next morning, Myun noticed Noah crawling under her bed and thought to herself that her sister had been acting a little weird lately, often sneaking things into a box and hiding them away. Curious, she waited for Noah to leave and then tiptoed into her room. Determined to investigate, she slid under the bed like a little spy and opened the hidden box, thinking this was her moment as Detective Myun. Inside, she found the Rubik's Cube their dad had given Noah, a piece of his black and gold armor, and a slip of paper with Leon's name written on it. All of it was clearly related to their dad. Myun's expression softened as she realized that despite her tough act, her sister really cared about their father. But before she could finish her thought, Noah appeared behind her, snatched the box shut, and said firmly, "No peeking." St. Heath Academy stood as the pinnacle of aristocratic education among the Dragon Clan, a school with incredibly strict admission standards where family lineage and structure played a critical role in evaluations. The institution believed that whether a child was born through asexual ovoparity or normal live birth, only a young dragon raised within a harmonious and loving family that upheld the ideals of dragon society could be considered a worthy candidate. To fabricate the perfect illusion of such a cohesive, affectionate family, the Silver Dragon Queen Weiss proposed a family outing complete with a family photo to support their case. Shifting into her majestic dragon form, Weiss carried Leon, Noah, and Myun on her back as they soared toward a floating sky city. Once they landed, Leon helped Noah and Myun down gently from Weiss' scaly back, saying with a soft smile, "Slow down, I will carry you down." Myun looked up at him curiously and asked, "Dad, why didn't you turn into a dragon just now?" Myun wants to see Dad turn into a dragon. Leon gave a nervous laugh, silently thinking, my precious daughter, while I'm quite skilled at slaying dragons, transforming into one myself, let's just not go there. Noah stared at him and stated flatly, you can't change, can you? Leon nodded with a wry smile and replied, well, before he could finish, Weiss stepped in with a smirk and said, your father's body hasn't fully recovered yet, so he can't transform into a dragon right now. I'll make sure you see it when he gets better. Myun's eyes sparkled with hope as she said, then Dad, you must get well soon. Leon nodded with a sigh, saying, I'll try my best, while thinking even though it's impossible. Weiss straightened up and announced, all right, let's head into town. We've got a lot to do today. The children ran ahead, their excitement evident as Myun called out, wow, look, there are so many dragons. Noah, trying to keep pace, warned, slow down, don't run too fast. Meanwhile, Leon lagged behind, his entire body visibly trembling. Weiss noticed his unease and thought, he's shaking, this must be the first time he's been around so many dragons since waking up from his coma. She turned to him and asked, what's wrong, are you scared? Leon looked back at her and responded with a wide grin, scared? I'm excited, okay? Then he pointed eagerly at the dragons passing by and exclaimed, first-class merit, second-class merit, merits are everywhere in the streets. I'm going to get rich, okay? And with that he strode forward with renewed enthusiasm. Weiss shook her head with a quiet sigh, thinking she had worried about Leon for nothing. Leon, with a gleam in his eyes, chuckled and said, how much money can I get if I bring them all back? Their outing continued as Leon and Weiss stepped into a quaint shop where the moment they entered, the lady shopkeeper and a younger assistant greeted them enthusiastically, saying, welcome, Her Majesty, the Silver Dragon Queen. It is a pleasure to serve you and your family. Myun and Noah ran ahead, fascinated by the displays as Myun pointed excitedly and said, look, there are so many photos of dragons. Leon leaned in closer to Weiss' ear and whispered with a teasing grin, aren't you the Silver Dragon Queen? Then why did you come all the way here just to take a photo in person? Weiss calmly explained, the Dragon King of each tribe can only command dragons within his own tribe. The dragons here in Sky City don't belong to any specific tribe. Leon scoffed and said, sounds like your queen status isn't that high after all. In response, she stomped her heel onto his foot, making him wince and clutch his toes in pain. Weiss casually walked off and tossed over her shoulder, anyway, I'm taller than you. The lady shopkeeper smiled graciously and said, it is an honor to take a family photo for the Silver Dragon Queen. Weiss returned her smile and replied, I've heard your photography skills are the best among the dragon clans. We're lucky to have managed to get an appointment. As Leon wandered through the shop, admiring a photo, the assistant suddenly pointed out, Your Majesty, your husband's tail. Before she could finish, Weiss interrupted, saying he doesn't like showing his tail, so let's choose a tailless suit for him. She recalled how Leon had flatly refused to wear the artificial tail she once gave him, declaring dramatically, I'll never wear that thing, even if I die. It's about my dignity. The lady nodded understandingly and said, I understand, Your Majesty. Please move this way and try on the clothes first. Weiss stepped into the fitting room, and from behind, Myun squealed, Myun wants a pretty dress too. A short while later, everyone emerged fully dressed. Leon, in a crisp white three-piece suit, looked dashing. Myun clapped her hands and said, wow, Dad is so handsome. The photographer complimented him too, saying, this suit fits the prince very well. You must have been popular in your youth. Leon blinked and replied, really? The last time I wore a suit like this was at my school graduation. Turning toward Noah, he asked, how does Noah feel? Noah nodded and said, yes, you look quite handsome. Smiling, Leon ruffled the heads of his two daughters and said, your skirts are really cute too. Just then, the curtain pulled open and Weiss stepped out wearing a stunning, front-slit black dress. Myun gasped and said, Mom is so beautiful. Leon's jaw dropped as his gaze locked onto her, eyes wide, frozen as he stared without blinking. Weiss raised an eyebrow and said, what? Leon quickly cleared his throat and looked away, muttering, nothing, it suits you. With a teasing smirk, she said, I think it'd be even better if you had a tail. In his mind, Leon groaned, I'm never wearing a tail in my life. Myun waved them both over and chirped, Mom and Dad, come here. Let's take a photo. The photographer called out, it's time to take the picture. Your Majesty, Prince, please come closer. Leon and Weiss stood awkwardly apart, each thinking stubbornly, I don't want to move closer. But as the camera clicked and their daughters pulled them together, they gradually stood side by side. Smile, everyone. 3, 2, 1, the photographer said, and just like that, multiple family photos were taken, each one a little warmer than the last. Eventually, the two parents stood close enough for their arms to almost brush. The photographer lady looked at them fondly and whispered they really do look like a couple. At Leon's graduation party, he stood out in a sharp blue three-piece suit, immediately attracting a crowd of adoring girls. One after another surrounded him, their voices overlapping as they gushed with admiration. One asked, "Senior Leon, can we take a photo together?" While another chimed in, "Would you have dinner with me?" Yet another girl shyly extended a gift, saying, "Please accept this." But Leon, unfazed and with a straight face, gently pushed the gift aside and replied, "No, I still have to go back and nail hooves on my master's donkey. I'll definitely do that next time." Without a second thought, he brushed past all the hopeful faces, waving them off as he walked away, leaving a chorus of disappointed goodbyes behind him. Watching from a short distance, his master squinted at him with a dumbfounded expression, thinking, did this guy get kicked in the head by a donkey? The lady informed them that the photo would take about 6 hours to develop and suggested that Her Majesty take a stroll around Sky City in the meantime. They all waved goodbye to the photographer and set off to explore. Myun excitedly pushed Noah forward, saying they should check out a spot up ahead. Leon glanced at Weiss and said he never imagined a day would come when he'd be shopping with her, finding it refreshingly new. She smiled and replied that it was all part of maintaining the image of a loving family. Since Noah was serious about the entrance exam and Leon had been working hard for a month, it was good to relax a little. As Myun and Noah stopped in front of a game stall displaying a large teddy bear, they saw that anyone who hit all the balloons would win the prize. Noah gave it a shot but failed to hit all the balloons. The shopkeeper, wearing a sympathetic smile, encouraged her by saying she could do it if she tried a few more times. Leon walked up from behind, surprised that a shooting game like this existed here, and Myun repeated what the shopkeeper had said. Noah, visibly frustrated, muttered about her failure. Leon thought to himself that these games are profitable exactly because people often miss. Weiss commented that the toy gun used magical energy bullets, requiring precise control of magic, which made it difficult for Noah. Leon picked up the gun, recalling how people used to play similar games at the human markets. The shopkeeper, feigning sympathy, offered them a deal: hit all the balloons in 10 shots and win the pair of teddy bears, knowing well he'd profit from parents trying to please their children. Leon asked Noah if she wanted the bears, to which she responded with a flat denial. Myun followed suit, saying she didn't want them either. Leon smiled inwardly, thinking that meant they both did. He then confidently declared to the shopkeeper, "Boss, give me 10 shots," and without hesitation pointed at Weiss and added, "She'll pay." The shopkeeper responded cheerfully, saying it was good, and Weiss handed over the coins to him without a word. Leon aimed his gun at the row of balloons, thinking to himself that it had been quite a while since he last held a gun, the last time being back during his days at the Dragonslayer Academy. As he fired the bullets one by one, each shot seemed to miss its mark, veering off awkwardly from the balloons. The shopkeeper clenched his teeth while keeping a fake smile on his face, secretly gloating that he had tampered with the gun so the aim would be off no matter how skilled the shooter was. But to his surprise, Leon quickly caught on to the flaw and adjusted. He began hitting the balloons with precision, taking down 5, then managing to strike all 9 in total. The shopkeeper stared in disbelief, thinking what just happened, while Leon commented casually that he had used the first shot to test the aim and then simply got lucky. Both Myun and Noah looked at their dad with wide eyes, clearly impressed by his skill. Weiss, watching with mild surprise, said he wasn't bad at all. The shopkeeper, swallowing his disappointment, handed over the dolls with forced enthusiasm, praising Leon's performance. Leon gave the dolls to Myun and Noah, each girl accepting hers with a bright smile and a heartfelt thank you. Weiss, looking at Leon in that moment, thought that although he often seemed unreliable, there was always something particularly charming about him when he got serious. Leon met her gaze, and Weiss immediately wondered why he was looking at her like that. Not long after, a dragon mother nearby held her child in her arms and the little one pointed toward Weiss saying, "Mom, I want that too," referring to the large teddy bear that Leon had won and handed to her earlier. Leon chuckled, recalling how satisfying it was to see the frustrated look on the scheming shopkeeper's face when he lost, thinking that it truly felt like he had vented all his anger just then. As they continued strolling through Sky City, Weiss glanced at the giant teddy bear Leon had won earlier and said that if it were up to her, she would have simply advised people not to waste time on childish games. Leon chuckled and reminded her that they came out to enjoy themselves, adding that it was perfectly fine to have a little fun. Then he looked at her and asked if she hadn't enjoyed it, to which she replied she never said that. With a slight grin, he said that since she was here anyway, he couldn't possibly let her go home empty-handed. When Weiss looked at the bear again, a faint blush crept across her cheeks as she found herself unexpectedly flustered. She thought to herself that while bears in the wild were terrifying creatures with no real value beyond their meat, the moment they were turned into plush toys, they became oddly adorable. Embarrassed by her own reaction, she turned her face away and muttered softly, telling Leon to come to her room after dinner. Leon blinked in confusion and asked what she meant, but she didn't respond, walking off with a subtle smirk. Later that night, back in the castle, Leon found himself nervously walking down the quiet hallway leading to Weiss' room. Her words from earlier kept playing in his head, and each step seemed heavier than the last. She invited me, it's late, and we're alone? Something is definitely going to happen, he thought. The debate in his mind continued as he reached her door. If I go in, I might regret it for a night. If I don't, I'll regret it for a whole week. Bracing himself, he knocked gently, but the door creaked open slightly. Curious, he pushed it fully open and stepped inside. The room was warmly lit, peaceful, and scented faintly with something floral. The soft glow from the lamp painted gentle shadows on the walls, giving the room a dreamy, intimate atmosphere. Weiss, he called out. No response came, but from the washroom, the sound of running water echoed softly. He followed the sound until he stood near the frosted glass door where her silhouette was just barely visible. Realizing she was still in the shower, he quickly turned away, flustered. Come on, Leon. Focus. You're not here for that. He took a breath and tried to compose himself. A moment later, the water stopped and the door opened gently. Weiss stepped out wearing a soft, elegant robe, her damp silver hair cascading down her back. Her skin glowed from the steam and her expression was calm yet expectant. Seeing him there, she smiled and said, You came. Let's get started. Leon nodded awkwardly, thinking, am I going to be squeezed dry again? His heart pounded, but he didn't turn back. She walked towards him and asked, Where would you like to do this? The living room or the balcony? Leon replied, On the balcony? That might not be a good idea, right? It could be embarrassing if we're seen. She moved toward the dressing table to pick up some scrolls and said, Then we'll do it in the living room. It doesn't really matter where. Leon closed his eyes and exhaled, saying, All right, let's go with that. He laid back on the sofa, his legs and arms spread wide, gritting his teeth. Weiss looked at him, confused, and asked, What are you doing? Leon responded, Don't you want to? She sat down in front of him and said, Mr. Leon, you seem unhappy, but tonight isn't the right time. Let's do this another day. Leon sat up awkwardly on the sofa and coughed, asking, What's going on? She opened a scroll in front of her, revealing a bundle of papers. These are the test questionnaires for viviparous families that were assessed by St. Heath Academy in the past. They cover living habits, personality, and the experiences of the partners. We need to prepare our responses in advance to avoid affecting Noah's admission assessment if we can't answer the questions. Leon began reading through the questionnaires, remarking, Aren't these just boring questions from the couple's tacit understanding game? The first few questions were simple. What is your partner's favorite color? What is the sentence your partner often says? Where did you meet on your first date? Which book does your partner like to read? He turned to Weiss and asked, Hey, what color do you like? She replied, Black. What about you? He answered, Silver, and as they exchanged glances, they both realized that black was the color of Leon's hair and silver was the color of Weiss. A moment of embarrassment passed between them. She laughed and said, It's just a coincidence. Leon agreed, Yes, just a coincidence. She continued, In short, let's test how well we know each other. Leon nodded and they started discussing the questions together. After a while, they checked their scores. Leon grinned and said, My score is higher than yours. Looks like I know the queen better. Weiss said nothing, reflecting that she hadn't expected Leon to notice small habits like how she liked to sit or how she positioned her tail. He must be more observant than she thought. The mistakes were on the part of guessing, which were due to her habit of keeping things to herself, never sharing them with others. She realized that maybe she could open up to this person. Meanwhile, Leon noticed that she had been staring at him for a while, wondering if it was because she was upset about losing. To ease the tension, he placed a hand on her shoulder and joked, The time we've spent together has been short, so it's normal that you couldn't get a high score in such a short time. For Noah's sake, please try to understand me a little better. Weiss blushed, then playfully punched him with the paper, saying, Stop talking nonsense. Write down your correct answers now. Leon grinned, teasing, By the way, did you get this wrong? You actually said you've never been disappointed in me. She responded with a smirk, No, if I must say, it's that there were few Dragon Great Force last time. Leon laughed, From now on, I'll eat Dragon Great Force pills for my meals. Don't regret it. Weiss smiled and replied, "I'm looking forward to it." The night before the entrance exam, Leon was holding a stack of papers and said that after a week of hard work, their average score on the test quotient had reached over 80 points, so as long as they performed normally, there shouldn't be any issue with the family assessment. He was excited, but Weiss was barely staying awake, clearly exhausted. Leon stood up and said that if there was nothing else, he would head back first, but just as he turned to leave, she reached out and tugged on his clothes, telling him to wait. She said there was a bathtub in the bathroom, so he should take a bath and then return. Leon's eyes widened in surprise at the suggestion, asking if she really meant to take a shower in her room. Without answering, she dragged him toward the bathroom, insisting he hurry up and wash. He tried to object, but she wouldn't listen and shut the door behind him. While undressing, Leon mumbled that he didn't understand why she suddenly wanted him to shower there. Was she planning something? Still, he stepped into the warm water, sighed, and told himself that she had just been tense lately because of the entrance exam, so there probably wasn't anything strange about it. As he relaxed in the tub, soaking in the warmth and letting out a breath of contentment, the door suddenly opened and Weiss walked in, wearing only a towel. Leon gasped and called out her name. She calmly brushed her hair back and began to explain that she had been feeling overwhelmed lately and wanted to. Before she could finish, a glow emerged from the dragon pattern on her body. At the same time, Leon's dragon mark began to shine as well. He stared at it, realizing what he had suspected was actually happening. Rising quickly from the bathtub, he asked why she was putting more pressure on him if she was already stressed. She gave him a playful wink and said that transferring the pressure to him might just relieve her own stress. As she let the towel slip away, she reminded him that he had come into her room with a certain mindset just a few days ago. Leon said nothing, knowing he had no excuse. Her gaze was both teasing and sincere, filled with warmth and a touch of vulnerability. As she stepped into the bathtub with him, the water rippling gently around them, she looked at him firmly and said he couldn't escape now, he could only surrender to her completely. On the day of the admission test at St. Heath Academy, Leon wore a brown three-piece suit and remarked that they had finally arrived. As he admired the Grand Academy, he noticed Weiss standing quietly beside him, her expression slightly flustered. Leaning closer to her ear, he teased that he had just helped relieve her stress the night before. Yet the effect seemed to have worn off already. Embarrassed, she snapped at him to go to hell, making him laugh as he walked ahead, telling her to hurry up. The academy grounds were bustling with families, each more anxious than the next, and the atmosphere was filled with both excitement and nerves. At the reception counter, the attendant read aloud Noah K. Markov's information, Silver Dragon Clan, age 1 year and 3 months. Leon raised a brow and asked if there was a problem, to which the receptionist replied that she was just surprised, since although the minimum age for admission was officially 1 year, most young dragons who enrolled were between 4 and 6 years old. She then questioned if Noah might be too young. Weiss firmly responded that Noah was very smart. Her age wasn't a concern, and they were simply respecting her own wish to attend. The receptionist nodded, gesturing to the side and saying she understood, then instructed them to proceed inside, where a staff member would guide Noah to the written exam while the parents headed to the 4th floor for the family assessment. On the 4th floor meeting room, Leon and Weiss sat side by side on the sofa while 3 evaluators sat across from them. Weiss gently wrapped her hand around Leon's and leaned close to whisper with a soft smile, asking whether he thought the panel would be easy to handle based on his experience. Smiling back, Leon whispered that if they dared to reject Noah's admission, he'd bring a sword next time. The elderly man in front, wearing glasses, introduced himself as Walter Wilson, the vice principal of St. Heath Academy, and assured them not to be nervous and to answer honestly. Weiss responded with a polite smile, calling him vice principal, though she privately noted he didn't seem like someone easy to fool. Walter began by asking if they remembered their wedding anniversary, a question they had anticipated. Back when they were students, Weiss had once asked what they should say if such a question ever came up, since they had never officially married and she had gotten pregnant before they tied the knot. Leon had said the date that stuck with him most was the day they bonded in the dungeon. Weiss then answered confidently that their wedding anniversary was May 25th, year 1733 of the creation calendar, and Leon silently recalled it as the day of their union. Walter commented that their child was already over a year old, though they had been married for less than 2 years, noting that their timeline seemed faster than most families. Leon chuckled, explaining that they fell in love at first sight, quickly got together, married, and had a child. Walter then asked whether, during these 2 years of marriage, they had noticed any shortcomings in each other. Leon answered yes while Weiss said no. Leon thought it was best to mix truth with diplomacy and elaborated that sometimes he felt invisible because his wife was so capable managing everything in the household flawlessly. Then leaning closer, he added that she tended to bottle up stress and he wanted to take this chance to tell her he wished to shoulder more of the family burden and that she could rely on him. Internally, he hoped she wouldn't keep offloading all that pressure onto him again in the future. Another evaluator, a lady seated beside Walter, smiled and asked Weiss what she found most attractive about her husband, commenting on how considerate and devoted he seemed. Blushing, Weiss replied that he was handsome, had a great figure, was focused, serious, intelligent, not greasy, responsible, like children, and never lost his temper. She added that while her health hadn't been as strong as it was before marriage, it wasn't a big issue because her husband was skilled at making medicine and had treated her using various remedies. Leon smiled wryly, wondering whether she was complimenting or mocking him. Weiss then leaned in, wrapped her hand tightly around his, and softly told him not to push himself too hard, though she squeezed his hand so firmly that Leon screamed internally. The evaluators glanced at the couple, thinking how sweet and genuine they were together. After some more back-and-forth questions between the panel and the couple, one of the evaluators mentioned a final optional question. Each person could ask the other a question that had to be answered truthfully. Weiss calmly said that she had no questions because she already knew everything about her husband. When asked, Leon paused in thought, causing Weiss to silently plead with him to wrap it up quickly since the more he talked, the greater the risk of slipping up. Then Leon asked if she liked the teddy bear he gave her. Her eyes widened in surprise at such an unrelated question and thought that his mind always managed to catch her off guard. Blushing, she answered that she liked it very much. Leon clapped in satisfaction and said he had nothing more to ask. With that, the evaluator stood and shook hands with Leon and Walter, announcing that the interview was now concluded and that the results of the assessment would be delivered to the Silver Dragon Castle via dragon letter in the coming days. They thanked both Leon and Weiss for their cooperation. A few days later, a small dragon, no bigger than a bird, landed on their window carrying a bottle with the results inside. Myun shouted excitedly that the dragon letter had arrived and everyone quickly gathered around as Leon opened the bottle, saying they should take a look. He unrolled the letter and the entire family leaned in to read it together. The letter read, "Dear Noah K. Markov, congratulations on passing our academy's assessment. Please come to our academy in 3 days to register and attend the entrance ceremony." A chorus of cheers broke out as they exclaimed that she was accepted. Myun hugged Noah tightly, saying his sister was amazing and so were their parents. Even the elders watching from the doorway smiled with pride, their hearts warmed by the joyful scene. Weiss turned to Leon and softly said thank you, to which Leon replied that there was no need to thank him since it was all thanks to Noah, she truly deserved it. Weiss gave him a playful wink as she turned away and said that she would make a big meal to celebrate and told Leon to come help, teasing that otherwise people might start saying he didn't exist in the family. Leon laughed and replied that she was really petty and always held onto grudges, but there was a hint of affection in his voice that made her smile. Would you like to see the next installment? Write the secret word dragon in the comments. That's way I'll know you have watched to the end, which means you want to see part 2. That's all for now. See you later and bye-bye.